The gravedigger who asked Elon Musk, "Can you predict the day you'll be buried?" The sun was low in the sky, casting golden fingers across the dusty ground as Elon Musk stepped out of the self-driving car. The cemetery hadn't changed much since his childhood. Same gravel paths, same leaning trees, whispering secrets into the wind. But something about the silence felt heavier now, more final. He walked slowly past rows of headstones, pausing at one carved with his mother's name. A chill passed through him, not from the cold, but from memory. "She was a quiet woman," came a voice behind him. Elon turned. The gravedigger looked older than the hills, but steady. His hands were blackened with earth, the kind of stains that only years of digging could cause. He leaned on a shovel, not out of weakness but from comfort, like it was part of his body. "You buried her," Elon said, recognizing the man. "I did, and 100 more since then," the man replied, eyes clear, as if seeing through decades. "But few sons return. Fewer still ask why she chose to be buried here." Elon looked back at the grave, and then at the man. "I don't think I've ever really asked myself." There was a pause. The wind blew. The gravedigger pointed to the soil beneath their feet. "We all end up here, no exceptions, not even the ones who build rockets." That struck Elon more than he cared to admit. For a moment, the wind seemed to stop, time folding in on itself. He glanced at the man again, curiosity growing. "What's your name?" Elon asked. "They call me Joseph," the man replied. "Not that names matter much where we're standing." Elon smirked, then frowned. "What do you mean by that?" Joseph leaned forward, pressing the shovel into the earth. "You've spent your life chasing the future, Elon. Mars, AI, tunnels under cities. But when was the last time you asked where it all ends?" The question hung heavy in the air. "I suppose I've never wanted to think about it," Elon admitted. "Death, it's the one problem I can't solve." Joseph nodded. "Maybe it's not a problem to solve, but a truth to face." There was a silence between them, and then Joseph asked in a tone so soft it pierced the heart, "Can you predict the day you'll be buried?" The question stopped Elon in his tracks. No answer came. He looked out at the landscape, at the shadows growing longer on the graves, at the quiet waiting earth. He realized then how little all the noise he created meant in the face of silence. Question for the audience. If Elon Musk, a man who bends the future, can't answer that question, can you? Elon Musk stood silent. For once, his mind, the mind that mapped galaxies, calculated trajectories, bent markets, had no ready response. Joseph didn't press him. He simply returned to the grave he was tending, pushing his shovel into the earth with slow, deliberate rhythm. The scrape of metal against soil filled the space between them. "Do you ever fear it?" Elon finally asked. "Fear what?" "Death." Joseph stopped. He looked up with a slow smile, not mocking, not smug, just knowing. "I don't fear what I expect," he said. "Death's visited me many times, Elon. It came for my mother when I was 9, took my daughter in a car crash, stole my best friend in the war. It doesn't knock, it enters." Elon looked down. "But doesn't it haunt you?" "It did, until I understood something simple, something Jesus said once. Do not be afraid of those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul." Elon's eyes narrowed. "You believe in the soul?" Joseph leaned on his shovel. "You believe in colonizing Mars. Is that harder to believe than a soul?" Elon chuckled under his breath, not from disrespect, but reflection. "You've got a point." Joseph crouched beside the half-dug grave. "The soul isn't measured in data, Elon, but it's the only thing we carry beyond the grave. That's why faith matters." Elon crossed his arms. "But faith isn't rational, it's not proven. Neither was electricity once, or wireless signals. You built the future because someone believed in what they couldn't yet prove. Faith is the same, just in a deeper current." There was a beat of silence. The sky had begun to deepen, brushing dusk across the horizon. Joseph continued. "I've watched rich men buried beside poor men, priests beside murderers. They all looked the same under the soil, but what they believed, that's what separated them in life, and maybe beyond it." Elon's voice was quieter now. "So you really believe in what happens after?" "I don't just believe, I prepare." Elon looked down again at his mother's grave. "She believed too," he whispered. "She taught me to work hard, to be fearless, but I never followed her into faith." Joseph wiped his brow. "She came to me the day before she died, said, 'Tell Elon I'm not afraid. I know where I'm going. That hit like a lightning bolt. Elon turned sharply. She said that? Joseph nodded. She knew death wasn't the end. She believed in the teachings of Jesus, not in religion as power, but in faith as peace. And she had peace. Elon looked at the grave again, something stirring in his chest he hadn't felt in years. Question for the audience. If the ones you love were ready to face the end, would you be ready too? Or are you still chasing answers that avoid the question? The night had crept in without warning, draping the cemetery in a soft, ghostly hush. A nearby street lamp flickered on, casting long shadows across the stones. Elon remained rooted, eyes locked on the ground. "Joseph," he said at last, "do you think all of this, everything I've built, means nothing in the end?" Joseph looked up, brushing the soil from his hands. "It means something, Elon, but maybe not what you think." Elon turned to him, eyebrows raised. "I've tried to help humanity, given people hope, jobs, dreams. Isn't that what matters?" "It does. But the question is, were you building towers for men to remember you, or bridges for souls to cross?" That one stung. Elon wasn't used to being questioned like this, at least not in a way that pierced deeper than business plans or market shares. He thought for a moment. "I guess I always wanted to leave a mark, to keep going, to not be forgotten." Joseph nodded slowly. "That desire's old as time. Even the pharaohs built pyramids to reach eternity. But they died anyway. The only legacy that outlasts time is love and truth." Elon exhaled. "What's truth, though? My whole life has been about questioning what people call truth, challenging the status quo, redefining what's possible." Joseph gave a small smile. "That's why I admire what you've done. But sometimes the deepest truths aren't discovered, they're received. Like faith? Like faith." Elon ran a hand through his hair, suddenly aware of how quiet it was. No machines humming, no screens glowing, just earth, just breath. "You know," he said, "I once thought about uploading consciousness, keeping the mind alive forever, a digital heaven, no death, no decay." Joseph's expression didn't change. "But would a digital mind still have a soul?" Elon paused. "I don't know." "And if you could live forever," Joseph said, "would you still learn how to love, to forgive, to let go?" Elon didn't respond. Joseph leaned forward again, speaking softer now. "Maybe the end is necessary, Elon. Maybe it's the reason we treasure beginnings." He pointed to the stars above. "You look up there for answers, but the one who made them came down to walk among us. And he didn't fear the grave. He entered it, willingly." Elon blinked. "You're talking about Jesus?" Joseph nodded. "Not as a figurehead, as a teacher, as someone who showed that eternity isn't about escaping death, but overcoming it through love, humility, and faith." Elon stared at the sky, the stars suddenly feeling both closer and further away. Question for the audience. Are you building a legacy that can be uploaded, or one that can be remembered in heaven? Which lasts longer, data or devotion? The wind grew colder, rustling leaves like whispers in a chapel. Elon tucked his hands into his coat pockets, suddenly aware of how alone the two of them were. Or maybe, how surrounded they were, by memories, by stories carved in stone. Joseph stepped away from the grave and sat on a nearby bench. With a quiet gesture, he invited Elon to join him. "Ever wonder," Joseph said, "why cemeteries are so quiet?" "Because everyone in them is dead," Elon replied, half smiling. Joseph shook his head. "Because the living rarely visit. We build lives so loud that we forget how to listen. But here, there's only one voice left, the honest one." Elon looked at him. "The honest voice? The one inside you, the one that asks who you really are when no one's watching, not the CEO, not the inventor, just the man." Elon went quiet. The silence felt sacred. "I sometimes think," Joseph continued, "that graves aren't reminders of death, but invitations to life, real life, the kind that starts when we stop pretending we're eternal." Elon leaned back on the bench. "I've spent billions trying to preserve life, prolong it, expand it, even transfer it, but I've never thought much about how to live it." Joseph nodded. "Many don't, but Jesus did. He said, 'What does it profit a man to gain the whole world, but lose his soul?'" Elon looked down. "So you think I've lost my soul?" "I think," Joseph said gently, "you've buried it under everything else, like a seed under concrete, but seeds grow when they're uncovered." The words landed deep. Elon felt something stir in his chest again, an ache he couldn't engineer away. Not fear, not regret, something deeper, a hunger. "Do you think God cares about someone like me?" he asked suddenly. Joseph turned. "Absolutely. But I've mocked religion, I've doubted, I've failed." Joseph smiled. "So did Peter, so did Thomas, so did everyone worth saving." Elon's eyes glistened now. He blinked quickly, looking away. "She used to pray for me, my mother," he said. "Every night. I'd hear her whispering in her room. I thought it was superstition." Joseph leaned forward. "It was intercession. She was standing between you and the darkness, Elon. And I think she still is." The cemetery was utterly still now, as if time itself had paused to listen. Elon closed his eyes. "I don't know how to pray." "You don't have to," Joseph said softly. "Just talk, like you are now. Faith isn't a formula, it's a relationship." The stars shone brighter above them. The grave beside them remained silent, but not cold. Somehow it felt like the beginning of something. Question for the audience. When the noise of the world dies down, what does your soul say? And if you're not listening, who is? Elon stared into the sky, the stars unmoving, unreachable. He'd spent his life chasing them, launching rockets, building empires, breaking the boundaries of gravity. But tonight, on a cold bench beside a quiet grave, he realized something startling. For all he'd mastered, he could not control the end. "I always thought," he began slowly, "that if I could predict everything, data, trends, probabilities, I could stay ahead of death, outsmart it." Joseph nodded, listening. "But you've learned what every king, soldier, and scientist has before you. That we don't choose the hour," Elon said quietly. "We only choose how we live before it." A silence followed. Not uncomfortable, just real. "I used to think faith was for the weak," Elon confessed. "Something people invented to feel better about dying." Joseph didn't interrupt. "But now I'm wondering," Elon continued, "what if it's the only thing strong enough to face death honestly? Not avoid it, not defeat it, just face it." Joseph smiled gently. "That's all it asks. Not perfection, just honesty." Elon rubbed his eyes. "It's strange. I've spoken at global summits, debated top minds, pitched to billions. But this, sitting here, talking about my soul, feels more terrifying than all of it." "Because it matters more than all of it," Joseph said. Elon looked at him. "Have you ever been afraid of losing control?" Joseph chuckled. "Every time I lower a casket into the ground, not because I doubt what's next, but because I know we never had control to begin with, only the illusion of it." Elon considered that. "I've tried to create a world where people don't need God, where technology fills every gap." "And has it filled the one in you?" Joseph asked. Elon looked down. "No," he whispered. The word fell like a stone into a well. Joseph placed a firm hand on Elon's shoulder. "That gap, Elon, it's not weakness, it's your invitation. Every man has it. Even Jesus had to face death alone before he rose. And he didn't rise with power, he rose with peace." Elon blinked. "Peace. I don't even know what that feels like anymore." Joseph stood slowly. "Then maybe it's time you stopped running toward the future and started walking with eternity." Elon stood too, brushing dust from his coat. The cemetery felt different now, not eerie, not final, just honest. He looked at the grave one last time. "Thank you," he said. Joseph smiled. "I'm just the messenger." As they walked toward the gate, Elon stopped and turned. "Joseph, why do you do this? Bury people, talk about death all day?" Joseph looked up at the stars. "Because every time I dig a grave, I plant a question. And sometimes, like tonight, someone stops long enough to hear it." Question for the audience. What are you planting with your life? Noise that fades, or questions that awaken others to eternity? The old iron gate creaked behind them as Elon and Joseph stepped back onto the road. Streetlights flickered like quiet sentinels in the night, casting halos over cracked pavement. Elon paused at the edge of the cemetery, glancing back one last time. "I used to dream of living forever," he said softly. "Now, I just want to live right." Joseph nodded, eyes warm. "Then you're finally beginning." Elon studied him. "Is that what faith is? A beginning?" "It's the only kind that matters," Joseph replied. Not inherited, not imposed, chosen. Elon looked down at his hands, hands that had built machines, launched satellites, shaped economies. But in this moment, they felt human again, mortal, needy. "I'm scared," he admitted. "That's not a failure," Joseph said. "That's honesty, the first step toward trust." They walked in silence for a while, the hum of distant traffic blending into the night. "My mother," Elon said suddenly, "she never forced her beliefs on me. She just loved me, prayed for me, quietly." Joseph smiled. "And love like that never ends at the grave. It echoes." "I think I'd like to pray," Elon said, his voice low. "Not for success, just for peace." Joseph stopped and placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then speak. He hears." Elon closed his eyes. No performance, no perfect words, just breath, just longing, and a whisper. "God, if you're real, teach me how to live, and how to die, and how to trust again." The moment passed, but the stillness remained. Joseph looked at him. "You just planted your first seed." Elon exhaled. For the first time in years, the air felt light. As they neared Joseph's small truck, Elon turned. "You know, I've got engineers, scientists, algorithms, but you've given me more in one night than they could in a lifetime." Joseph shrugged. "I just dig holes. God does the rest." Elon smiled. "Maybe we'll talk again. I'll be here. Or you'll find another gravedigger. God's good at placing them along the path." They shook hands, one stained with soil, the other with ambition. As Joseph drove off, Elon stood alone under the stars, but not truly alone. He looked up. The sky was vast, endless, and yet for the first time, he didn't feel small beneath it. He felt held. Final question for the audience. Are you building towers that will crumble, or planting seeds that will bloom beyond the grave? When your story is told, will it be one of control, or of surrender, hope, and peace?